everyone. I'm very glad to say that winter has arrived back in Scotland. I watched from a distance my wife scraping the ice off her car this morning. It looked really cold. Summer was nice while it lasted. Let me mention again our Hands Up for Trad Music Club show next week to celebrate World Play a Strathspey Day, featuring fiddlers Adam Sutherland, Ross Cooper, Innes Watson, Megan Henderson, Kristen Harvey, Isla Callister and pianist Rory Matheson, and they're all coming together for this very special live show. If you would like to buy a ticket for the concert on the 14th of May, you can go to handsupfortradmusicclub.co.uk. Now remember and tell us where you're watching from. It's always great to hear that. What's the weather like where you are? You tell us and we'll give you a wee shout out. But please welcome my amazing guest today, the legend that is fiddler Charlie McKerron. How are you, Charlie?
Hi Simon, I'm good. Excellent, man. Enjoyed your introduction, but all good. Just like everyone else, I'm just trying to get on with the life in these difficult times.
And are you in your garden studio today?
I am. I'm in my studio. So I've been working on this for over 4 years. This studio now, and it's still not finished, but it's almost finished. And basically, it's been a great project. I got a skilled man from Ullapool, a guy called James Nairn. His nickname is the Sage, and he's good at everything. I think that's why he's called the Sage. And he basically, my neighbour here works for the Forestry Commission, and he managed to get me some wood, like tons and tons of big trees, which I got milled on site, and I've used it to build. The Sage also. He was cutting the wood up, he had the building in mind, so he cut it all to spec, and it's just a case of putting the bits together. And then there was lots of cladding left over as well, which we put on our extension on our house as well. So the actual the use of the wood, and it's all locally sourced, has become quite a great project for me in these times, because I've been able to get stuck in, and hopefully it'll be finished by end of next week, I'm hoping, Simon.
Well, I bet it's fabulous. I remember you talking about it at Tinto Summer School one year, and I think I was pretty jealous, actually. I think I want one.
Well, I'll tell if you're putting one together, I'll come down and give you a hand with some of the woodwork. I've learned a few skills in that department.
Well, you have to, because I'm definitely not very talented there. Anyway, before we get started, our first video today is from the Old Blind Dogs, and they have been reimagining their classic tracks, and it's going to all come out on a new reimagined EP on the 14th of May, which is really exciting. And from the EP, this is Tatties and Heron.
Oh, ye Scots working men, you've gone crazy, you fear, 'cause every day you man hear but beef and your beer, and little can ye I knew, though you'll soon come to learn, that your natural food is but tatties and herring. Tatties and herring, tatties and herring, your natural food is the tatties and herring. We a pound in the wick, you may fair be content, 'cause you've I got 10 shillings for clays and for rent, and 2.60 bits by, can you need to be sparing? Aye, and 7 and 6pence for your tatties and herring. Tatties and herring, sixpence for tatties and Helen.
Great there, and check out, do a search on Google for Old Blind Dogs. I think it's oldblinddogs.co.uk, and you can buy that EP from the 14th of May, and please do it because it really supports the musicians. So Charlie, when did you first pick up the fiddle?
Well, I was 9, Simon, and my father played the fiddle, of course, on my great uncle Tom McKerron. And I remember I was at that time I would have been at Kinloss Primary School. My mother and father ran a hotel in Findhorn, the Kilburn Sands Hotel, which has now been demolished, but built into something else. But basically, yeah, we did the can you do that rhythm? And that somebody came around the school, and if you could copy a rhythm, you were deemed to have some musical aptitude. And then, would you like to play a musical instrument? And then I was straight away, I'd love to play the fiddle. And I was lucky enough to have a brilliant teacher early days, a man called Drummond Cook, and he's still alive, I hope, Drummond Cook. And he basically great musician, fiddle player, and accordionist, and he plays. He's also, as well as being a classical teacher, he was great involved in the traditional music scene as well, in the dance band scene. And I was lucky. My second teacher, Jimmy Taylor, both of these men always encouraged me to play traditional music. I was very lucky, So I would say that I got up to grade 5 in classical violin, because my excuse would be that I didn't do the theory. I didn't pass the theory for it. I didn't sit it, to be honest. But so I never progressed further than that. But luckily for me, my teachers always said, "Well, play me a scale, practice that one there, and then do this, and then right. Have you heard this reel, or have you heard this spay?" Or so I was very lucky, and I'm indebted to both of them. And Jimmy Taylor was a great player too, and he was more a fan of Irish music, and he put me on to Sean Maguire. He says, "Go and listen to this guy." And then I mentioned it to my father, and my father says, "Oh, well, I've just recorded him off the radio. There you go, listen to this." And that was a great thing for me, listen to Maguire early days. And then obviously Scottish fiddle players, like at that time I was involved with the traditional fiddle competition scene. And so the people that would be kicking about at that time, winning competitions, people like Angus Cameron and, of course, Douglas Lawrence, Florence Burns, so basically I had Hector McAndrew, of course, would have been my favourite Scottish player of all time. But my father encouraged me, helped me through giving me recordings, and he used to record stuff off the radio and say, "Have you heard this tune?" and stuff like that. So I was very, very lucky. And my great uncle Tom McKerron, who would turn up, and come back to my dad's house after funerals or some kind of family get together, and they would always be having whiskey drams, and he would say to me, "Give us a tune on the fiddle, Charlie." And my dad would go, "Oh no, not him again." So I was lucky. My great uncle always used to ask me to play, which is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Anytime your hands are on an instrument, it's a good thing. It makes your playing, your hopefully gradually getting better.
I think it's funny. My memories of playing for relatives are not so good. I obviously loved my music, but as soon as my mother said, "Your auntie's here playing a tune," it was like, really? Hiding behind the couch.
I know. But we were lucky because my auntie Charlotte played the piano, and so she would be on the piano, and then we had the fiddles, at least 3 fiddles going, and great crack, and the tunes they played as well. They would have gone back for sessions for probably at least 100 years in the McKerron household. And my grandfather, my father's father, he played. I heard he was a big police sergeant, and massive hands, and he was a bit ropey, but they still we managed to try and get the Laird of Drumblier out and the Deal Among the Tailors. That was the the top reel in our house. Excuse me.
I mean, I didn't know, Charlie, that it went quite far back in your family, the fiddle. That must have been, it must be quite amazing looking back at it now, the sort of lineage of it all.
Well, yeah, yes, I mean, I just think, Simon, it's it's just typical of the life in the, I would imagine, in agricultural Scotland, rural Scotland, from the islands to the northeast of Scotland, where my family came from, and just the bothy ballad culture, the working culture. How did you entertain yourself, on a night where you're away from home, or so that's where I guess a lot of that bothy music came from, and the fiddle tradition in itself. Obviously, I think like through Neil Gow's time and stuff like that, they were patronised by the rich, and that's even speaking to Bobby MacLeod many years ago in the Missionist Hotel in Tobermory. He still said to me that we had to give recognition to that source of revenue that was from the wealthy, that they have promoted Scottish music. And I of course at that age I would have been a rebel. That was the early days of Capercaillie, and I was I would have been mouthing off in the pub, and he gave me a talking to and said, show some respect for.
Well, I think it's actually very true, though. I mean, Scottish tradition is one of the best archived in the world, and that was down to the patronage of all the wealthy. All these books of tunes that we're so lucky to have that I don't think many other cultures have at all. And where we can go is all due to wealthy people wanting someone to write tunes for them.
Well, that's how true, and I mean you can see it, like in the writing of the Gows, Skinners, all the, the great collections. You can see there's a lot of reference to the military, to the wealthy, and I'm just trying to think of it's a great photograph. It's a painting in the art in Edinburgh. There's it's a picture, a portrait of I think it's William Marshall and Robert Burns and the Duke of Gordon and his wife, and that says a lot, So they were in Burns obviously was mixing in good circles, you could say, and William Marshall, of course, a great composer as well from the northeast, from Fochabers, and he was in the service of the Duke of Gordon. And I was just going across a bridge the other day on the way to Nairn, and it was Dulnain Bridge, and I read there that Burns had come over there in a horse and cart on a travel from the Duke of Gordon's in Fochabers down, heading over to Nairn, or over to the west, over to Inverness. So that was fantastic. It's a great thing when you can tie your history in Scotland back to just a location, and you can say, all right, Robert Burns has been here, he's been over this bridge,
Oh yeah, well, where we used to live in Lamington, Burns used to walk past our door every day. It's just pretty cool, actually. But we could keep talking about all this for ages, but I want to jump ahead and talk about session A9, because I just flipping love them. And Session E9 are everything that I love about trad music. How did the band start? Because I've got this brilliant clip and I don't want anybody to miss it. So tell me about how the band started.
Well, it's an interesting one. I guess just through jamming with certain individuals and meeting them at various festivals and things. And also Sandra, my partner, Sandra Mackay, she with a lineup of Tanis, that's probably how I got to know. I knew Brian McAlpine before that, but I would have met Brian and Chris Drever through her band, and indeed Sandra formed an agency company called Artist A9, which she uses. That's her email, Artist A9, and of course I just obviously stole the A9 bit and Session A9. We could do something with that, and then. People I had in mind, obviously, certainly Tim Eady. Now, Tim and I go back a long way, and I met him through Michael McGoldrick, and of course Tim was playing with Mike at times when, say, Ed Ed Boyle couldn't make it, and basically I probably met him a couple of times at festivals, and we just decided that it'd be great to do something together. And it was a nightmare putting that album together, the first album. So it was. I definitely probably have to take most of the credit for that in terms of taking my mobile recording studio, and going from A to B. And it was kind of done like that, and it probably sounds a bit like that. But in the process of doing it, we did, go through that. A fundamental thing you have to do with these lineups is you have to play as much as you can together, and even though it's quite crack, we've got a lot of crack in our approach to it. It's still you've still got to learn the tunes, and I think one of the things was that we were up, because we were up for a session and all that. Everyone in the band, people were always wanting to play and practice the certain tunes, and I think it probably went over the top that we would have been playing our stuff in actual sessions with other people, and they would be going, "Oh my God, would they just shut up with their stuff?" But yeah, I think we were probably quite famous for that, for hogging the show and trying to just, and then trying to get tunes together like Gordon Duncan's "Press for Time," and that's it doesn't sit that well in the fiddle, and it really does take a lot of playing through, practicing to I'm sure you know that yourself. There are certain tunes that suit certain instruments, and not that it would probably bother you, Simon. You can play anything, but certainly, I think that was the kind of from individual meetings, and then a sort of a few random emails trying to get everyone to come together, and then in my hub at that point, I lived just at that time. I lived about 3 miles towards Aviemore from the Kincraig direction, where I live now, and that was it was when I first went there was nobody there. It was just this farm cottage, and we could make as much noise as we liked. So it was kind of like that. We would be jamming into the early hours of the morning, Say No More, and having the crack, and that's kind of how the band came together. And then I got in the first album I had David Chimp Robertson, the Capercaillie percussionist. I got Chimp signed up to do it, and then asked him to, would you fancy putting this on the road? And he was going, "Oh no, I've never really done anything like that," because it was he'd kind of merged a few drum styles together, and I genuinely think he was a bit scared of doing it. So in the early days, so he didn't do it. He did the album, but the first drummer we had after that was Ian Copeland, who joined us, and of course Ian is fantastic. Great drummer, and he certainly added a lot of life to the early live sound, and it's just been difficult at times when musicians couldn't make it. Like you sign up with an agency and they say, "Right, I've got you booked for some festivals in England," and then, well, some of the musicians are in the Peterborough Fairies, some of them are in this band, some are in that band, and then they get a phone call, there's a traffic jam on some road and coming out of Wales, and we're going to be late for our gig. At Glastonbury this was, by the way, and things like that. And over the years as well, to make the band work, early days, we had quite a big pool of musicians. And I think, certainly Ailey Shaw and Gavin Marwick has been involved, Simon Bradley, and of course Sarah McFadgen as well. And I think guitar-wise, Chris Strever then was replaced by Mark Clement, who's I've played with Mark a lot through the years, and he's fantastic. So it's just a probably typical story of most bands, Simon, that just to make things work, you have to bend the rules sometimes, but it got to the stage, I think we had a band meeting, which is never a good thing, and basically we said, "Look, no more depths, and as a result of that, we've never worked since." but not quite. But it rules you out of so many things, and I know we were almost going to be doing a show with you, in the near future, but we couldn't get Kevin Henderson out of Norway to do it, and it's one of these things. It's like I think if you're playing in front of an audience, adrenaline can help you get through things. And I'm not so sure when you're just making films, it becomes, I think your mind becomes more analytical of what you're actually doing and listening to the parts and stuff. So
well, I think Charlie, this is that's an excellent intro into this, because this is alive. The band, the lineup of the band performing live, and this whole concert is actually available on YouTube. It is absolutely amazing. And basically, it's me, the swing, the tunes, the fun of playing together, and the smiles just says everything that I love about trad music. Oh man, I have listened to that. I don't know how many times this morning. Just that clip, I don't know. It just totally makes me smile. Actually, and I should say to people out there that there's a whole live album as well as all the other normal albums available to listen on all streaming media as well. So definitely check it out. But I just want to say hello to a few people. Hello to Kim from Nova Scotia, Vincent from sunny but cool Leeds, Beth from Tennessee, hi to Gail from the East End, Liz from sunny Ayrshire, Anne from Dunvegan, and Gail talking about having to read poetry to a family. That's Kim saying how awesome that was. I can only agree. Hi Sophie Stevenson, I'll bet you were dancing along to that. And there's Mary saying hi Charlie, listening to, I don't know how to say that, Waxahachie in Texas. Amazing. Thanks. And keep telling us where you're watching from. It's really great to hear. Charlie, I've always wanted to ask you about the Golden Fiddle Awards.
Oh, yeah. That was an interesting one. It was kind of like, I think it was the Daily Record picked up on the popularity of fiddlers' rallies and the fiddle competitions that usually were, quite often they were tied up together. And basically it ran right through the 70s, I think, and into the 80s, and I won it in the final year of it ever of the competition actually existing, which was in 1983, And if you were to look at the winners, the previous winners, there's some amazing players over the years, and um, uh, I think at least once Douglas Lawrence won it as well. So a great. It was a great thing to win for me because it meant, for example, I was asked to go out up to the Shetland Folk Festival over the heads of winning that, which is a brilliant thing, And I know that it's a similar sort of system of networking that you use with the young trad and stuff like that, because they can be touring Germany, can't they? Yet, that they put on tours of the young trad musicians, and I know the agent who does that, and so a similar thing to that, Simon, in that these things can open doors for you. And also it was good for me blagging my way into Capercaillie as well. Actually, I remember because I met the guitarist Sean Craig, the Capercaillie's first guitarist, in his last day of college in Edinburgh, and I was just getting started. But I think it's because Sean was leaving. He decided he'd had enough. He was doing a catering thing, and his parents ran a hotel, and I think he'd had enough, and that was it. But I said, just a couple of days before he left, I said, "Come on, we'll get a session," and we got together, and we got on really well, and I loved playing with him. And then as a result of that, I was invited over to Argyll to both Sean's hotel and just hanging out in Oban, and then hanging out with Donald Shaw and Mark Duff and Karen and that in Donald's parents' house in Taynuilt, So it was an interesting how these things work, and but certainly that's how I kind of had the courage to go and ask people to, you fancy, getting a band together, or do you fancy getting a session on? And of course, early days of the, I would imagine that's sort of maybe just after the mid '80s. That's probably the first time I saw you playing, Simon. And is it La Belle and Gel? Was it that place? Was it a nightclub that James McIntosh used to do it all the time? With
yes.
Probably,
quite late on, yes. Not a lot of soberness going on.
No, but you would. I mean, I think you'd have been quite young. You probably were too young to be in a club playing music. But I remember that was the first time I ever met you when I saw you playing.
That's right, because you were in Bread Street at the time, weren't you?
I was. Yeah. That's right, and that would have been me coming back quite a lot. I think I would have been training a lot between Edinburgh and Glasgow at that time, and going out to Glasgow sessions as well, and playing with Donald and Mark in Glasgow. But that's the '80s. That was a good time for traddy music in Edinburgh, wasn't it?
It was amazing. When did you start composing? Because I mean, you've written so many classic tunes that are really virtually part of the tradition.
Well, thank you, Simon. Well, I guess it's when I started, probably when I was still at school, and just through the being encouraged to write something as part of your studies, And I did O grade music, I think in my sixth year. So that would have been, fairly on. And then just trying to write from there. And once you get that, once you're forced into doing it, and you do something, and you're always embarrassed, aren't you? About your work. You never think you've got a piece of magic at your fingertips, and it's like you take a lot to. It's a funny thing, isn't it, to have confidence in your own writing? But gradually, I would say definitely Donald Shaw has major influence on me as well, because like Donald, when I first met him, he was writing, like some great tunes, great music, and definitely that inspired me as well. And then just through working with Capercaillie over the years as well, brilliant challenge for in the early lineup days for me and Mark Duff would be to come up with instrumental breaks, and I was lucky to work with Mark as well, because Mark had studied jazz at the Guildhall in London, and composition, and he kind of went through the various directions you can go when you're trying to write a piece of music. And then if you're listening to, you've got a few chords in a progression, a 16-bar progression. You say, how do you put a piece of music into this? And Mark quite often said, which was quite like common sense, was you get stuck in a phrase somewhere, and he was told, well, if you're stuck and you're going up just go down. and vice versa, you know. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? So it's there's always somewhere to go. It's not so easy though. I've got quite a few tunes that I've half finished that I've maybe spent days on them, you know, trying to polish the proverbial turd, you know.
Do you remember your first hit?
As a solo tune, you mean?
Yeah.
As a composition. Well, I think I guess the probably the album that sticks out would be the Blood is Strong, which was a commission to write music to go with a Gaelic series on. I guess it was like on Scots throughout the world, and Gaels probably in particular, but an amazing series which got a lot of following, and we put the soundtrack out on the back of that series, and it really shows you how things like that can impact on sales. And we had great sales, you know, like we had like you know, we were winning discs for that, for the number of pressings and stuff. So, but I would imagine that and because the tunes were well, one of the tunes that got played a lot in the early days was my tune Tom McKerron's, named after my great uncle Tom McKerron, and it was kind of done in a slightly kind of Americana kind of way, maybe touch a bluegrass vibe to it, and I think it captured the session mentality at the time, and so and I think the Eiley Ranters, that was another one from one of the early albums that people seem to play in different, you know, like it also gets played in like Scottish dance bands and stuff like that as well.
One of the ones that I still come back to a lot is the 70th Year, written for your dad. That's a beautiful tune.
Oh, thank you, Simon. I do. I was quite emotional when I wrote that and going into the second part, and I remember having a conversation with Martin Bennett about it, and I was trying to write a tune with Martin one time. We were working together, and we got so far, and then he sort of eventually says, you know what, you just write it yourself. He gave up on me, but he did give me a couple of good phrases that I've still played today. But the 70th Year, Martin loved that as well, and he just said, you know, the chord change going into the second part, and he said, yeah, you're kind of ambling along that your father's lived his life, and then you've reached your 70th year, and come on. It's had that kind of emotion, which I did try to. I just stumbled upon it, you know, and I think that was messing about on a keyboard.
Oh yeah, because the change actually going back, the last 4 bars going back to the F is beautiful as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, do you know, as well, I remember when I was doing that, and I was going, oh man, does this work? How I mean, is this corny? You know, are folk going to think that's just like, oh, he's running out of ideas. What's he doing? So it's a funny one, and I know Ailey Shaw picked up that tune. She recorded it, and I love her version. And of course the big Unusual Suspects as well. They did it too. Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Oh, amazing. Of that. Well, we've got another video of you playing here, actually. It's a video of you playing solo, and there's not a lot of them going around. Now, one of the beauties of actually doing this show is getting to look at everyone's back catalogue. And actually, I found this video of you playing solo in Orkney in 2018, and playing the Strathspey, the Bancroft Crofters.
Oh yeah.
And and I have to say, it's fantastic playing. So let's have a watch of it.
Well.
That's great. Fantastic. Although I don't think that style might have won you the Golden Fiddle Award, especially the last tune.
No. The last tune would have blown it for sure. And no, I did. I'm trying to remember what I actually played. It could have been Pretty Peggy, maybe. I played in the competition.
Great tune.
I love the tune, yeah.
But I mean, I think that video is a fabulous video. It's brilliant to hear you playing solo, of course. But,
Thank you.
and there's Amber Thornley saying, "Great playing, fantastic." But it really shows, the work that you put in your youth, of the hours. That video just says it all, I think.
Well, luckily, my mother used to say to me, she could. I wasn't allowed to go out unless I practiced. You know what I mean? She had a lot on me, of course, I would say, to keep me in a boot. And but that was a great incentive. Like go and practice for an hour, and you might get out. And then and that really helped me. And of course, once you get going, don't you? When you get playing, you just kind of zone in and get transported away. And I loved playing along with cassette Simon in the early days, and like so I would have all these. I mean the pirates. There's no denying it. Pirate copies of Fiddle Players. I apologise. Hector McAndrew. I'm sorry to your family. But I just playing along with these great recordings, and McAndrew was a real master, and he just had so much music in any of his tunes that were just, I think, just musical to me. And we're lucky, the fact that we have been exposed to traditional music in my opinion, and I feel blessed to have heard and some of the stuff I've heard. And of course the session scene in Edinburgh, when I was living there, I lived there from I think probably about 80 to 90, something like that. And I loved it. I loved the sessions, and not necessarily playing, but walking into a bar and getting a pint and then just listening to what was going on. And I mean, it just like, whoa, it just filled up your heart,
Oh, amazing. Oh, we're very, very lucky. Now, I think you were talking about Capercaillie earlier, and you joined about 1985?
Well done. Absolutely right. You've done your research.
Thank you,
right.
Wikipedia.
No, you're bang on. And first gig was February 85, and that was brilliant crack. And then that year we went on to tour Cape Breton with what can only be described as a cultural exchange. And Donald had been promised the world, and I thinking, we're going to make a good wage out of this. And then to be informed when we arrived, well, you realise your flights were quite expensive. So we're looking on this as a bit of cultural exchange. And we were like, okay, fair enough. But great.
And the first album you made, it's one of my favourite albums, Crosswinds. I mean, because I used to come and see you playing in Edinburgh at that time at the Acoustic Music Centre at the Fringe, and that album came out of Green Linnet. What do you remember about that time?
Just playing, intense playing together, and I think that was at that time early band career, and none of us were really doing any other band stuff at that time. It was just really focused on playing together and hanging out together, and just an incredible amount of playing and practicing and working out tunes and going to sessions, and just a great time in our lives, I think. And at that time, Donald and Karen would have been living in Partick in Glasgow. They moved down to Glasgow quite sharpish after Donald left school, I think. But that was a great crack down in Partick, and then going round to their flats, and we would have tunes. So just what I remember of that time, Simon, is just a lot of playing together, and any excuse for a tune, and then some serious hard work as well, and rehearsals, and then. But I think the thing that made Capercaillie was probably getting to tour America, and just because of the long tours and the amount of playing we did. And I remember coming back from an American tour once and doing a gig in Aberdeen, and we were really tight. And I mean, the band was playing amazingly tight and playing well and singing well. And we played one track, our opening number in the gig in Aberdeen, and we got a standing ovation from the first number. So that showed how much work we had been doing at the time, and of course, as you know yourself, that there are arguments that touring can burn musicians out as well. Of course, there's that side to it, but yeah, at the end of the day, you should be playing more than not. So I know there's arguments for pros and cons for touring, but I think to get a band playing tightly, it's a great mechanism.
And it must have set you up then, all that work because in the early 90s you ended up with chart success. I mean, you sold over 1 million albums, didn't you?
Yes. I mean, amazing sales in those days. It's very different now, isn't it? But we were lucky. We were in a time in history when that was possible, and once again, I think the chart success was achieved through a documentary, and so I think these are very, very useful tools to use to any young person there. It's like, I think you've got to pursue as many avenues as you can to promote your work or your music or your arts, So I think it was amazing times for us, Simon, absolutely. And then I remember reading I think it was a review about Capercaillie, and it was similar. Capercaillie's just stepped off a plane from Japan to walk onto the set of the movie Rob Roy, and then went on to do like something. You know what I mean? So it was amazing times for us, and of course great memories.
And you've always had great hairstyles, but there were some really brilliant ones in the sort of late 80s and the 90s. Quite a few perms going on.
Well, it was what did they call it? The Kevin Keegan look, wasn't it? And absolutely shocking. But I think it certainly makes people laugh when they see it now.
I've got this. I found this video of Capercaillie playing in 1998. It's on YouTube, and it looks like it's a half-an-hour TV special, and you must have still been playing lots then, because the band are so tight and the movement is brilliant, and also there's loads of you.
All right, great. The more the better.
Let's watch it.
Thanks.
Hello.
That's a band at the top of its game.
Ah, well, thank you. Great. You know, my memory and just what can I say? Experience of being with Capercaillie has been amazing. A brilliant thing for me, and I've loved it. And we still occasionally get to do some gigs, you know, which is wonderful.
I think there's a gig coming up soon, isn't there? Is there a festival?
Well, allegedly, the Wickham Festival. Yeah. Wouldn't that be amazing if it? I know they were quite keen to the organisers. They were quite keen to put it on last year. Even, you know, they've said, look, it's an outdoor event, blah blah. But we'll see what happens. And it's quite a big Scottish contingent. I think Old Blind Dogs, we saw earlier, have been asked to do it, and I think Duncan Chisholm has got some kind of line up there too. And it'd be interesting to see if it goes ahead.
I think it will, actually.
Okay. Well, that's a bit scary, because I'm going to have to go and look out the Capercaillie CDs then.
Oh man, well, fantastic.
I bet Donald Shaw's even going. Might have to listen to a couple of tracks maybe. So I don't know. It was closer to hand, but I would imagine there would be a few bits of recordings zooming about the place in the near future.
Well, Charlie, I'd love to chat more. We're kind of out of time, but it's always amazing to chat to you. I should mention that sometime in the near future you have a new album coming out with Brian O'Hara and Sandy Breakin.
Oh yeah. We had that almost ready to go before lockdown, and then Sandy's been working hard on it over the last few months and managed to get something together. So it's fantastic. Some lovely, great tunes on it and great songs, and certainly enjoyed doing that. I love playing with the lads. Good crack, you know. And also Session 9, we've done quite a lot of pre-production on an album, which we're going to reconvene. We're hoping to reconvene in September to maybe get a few days together and just try and catch up with where we were, and really hoping to get an album out for next year, which will all be our 20th anniversary, Simon.
No way. Well, you can actually find out about that. Well, there's Charlie's Facebook page where it's Charlie McKerron Teaching. You'll find out about what Charlie's up to there, because Charlie, if you didn't know this already, is actually quite an amazing teacher as well. I know we haven't really touched on this today, but I always, whenever you teach at Tinto, you get so much out of the kids. And Session E9 has also got their own Facebook page, so definitely keep an eye on that. So we will be back next Wednesday. Not really sure who with at the moment, but it'll definitely be someone. 2:00 next Wednesday. As the year goes on and lockdown gets less, that's quite exciting. So thanks, Charlie, for coming on today. I've loved it.
Simon, always a pleasure to hang out with you, always. And we should do it more often. Get yourself up here. Get yourself
Absolutely.
up for a holiday. For a wee holiday, come on.
A staycation.
Yes, indeed. Do it. You're very, very welcome, and bring your lovely family with you. And well, hopefully we'll get together soon in the flesh.
We definitely will. So thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you soon.